It's the LinkedIn Logs. It's the jobs podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Episode 62 of the show that sometimes happens on time and sometimes does not. If you're looking at the last episode, 61, it was uploaded yesterday. When was it recorded? 3 days prior. Whose fault is that? Mine, baby. But you know what? Who cares? No one's paying attention. Here we are back at it again. Nothing's going on for me. Let's move into what typically is happening in the world of jobs. I'm sitting here on, if you want to know what I'm doing, I'm sitting here on LinkedIn. Actually, I have so many stories to get to, but I'm sitting here on LinkedIn just watching people so happy in their lives. All right, so here we are, about a week after CNN it says it's going to lay off 200 people and then rehire 200 people, but only for the digital side, and that includes like tech engineers and things of that nature. Actually, you know what? I don't even know this. I got an email. It is from, my pet insurance company. Hopefully that have good news for me, because they responded way too quickly for this email. For what's going on. The cat needs surgery. There you go. Anyway, all right, now I'm going to the Warner Brothers Workday account. I wonder if they already have the jobs up, because if so, that's pretty damning of them to be ready to go with a lot of these. Oh, I applied to 2 jobs last week. Will I get them? Time will tell. So Atlanta. So CNN laid off 200 people. They did a bunch of scheduling changes, which include Wolf Blitzer and Pam Brown co-hosting, I guess, the Blitzer Report. What is it called? What was Wolf Blitzer's show called? Anyway, they moved that to daytime. Tapper gets extended time in the early evening, and there you go. I do see a lot of jobs that were posted, oh my goodness, on yesterday. That's crazy. Wow, that is so crazy. You know, this is uninteresting in the slightest. I'm not going to tell the story. Never mind. It was going to be way too personal. It was about being on a dating app and seeing like people I've worked with. That's pretty much it. That's the extent of this. It wasn't even a story. It's an anecdote. Never mind. Disregard. I put on a sweater for this show because I don't want to appear in a t-shirt. I want to be professional for the Jobs podcast. Because who knows? Maybe somebody's going to watch this and be like, he's right. I'm going to hire him. So the 117. What was the last time I was here? I was on the Warner Brothers Workday during this show. There were 78 or 79 jobs or so, more or less. And then now there's 117. A lot of these are on site. And then a lot of these are internships, which it makes sense. Senior producer, CNN Max, whatever. Anyway, I feel like never mind. I don't want to say anything. Okay. It wasn't for once. It wasn't a negative against the company. It was something about something else. Anyway, Jim Acosta is now leaving the company. This comes from the Daily Beast, written by Yasmin Hamada. Usually, I'll tell you this, and here's a little behind the scenes of this show. I try not to go to the Daily Beast because they only allow you like 5 free articles per month, and I'm not paying for a Daily Beast. Let me just tell you that. Jim Acosta is leaving CNN, and anyway, he's leaving CNN. They were going. He did have a 10 a.m. show. They were going to throw him on at midnight, which is such a bad decision. No news show should be on at midnight. And you know what? I was watching the Golf League, TGL, which is ESPN's and Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy's new. ESPN has nothing to do with it. They just air the program. But Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy came together to do this new indoor golfing league with professionals, with PGA Tour pros. And I think it's a blast. I think it's very fun. I think curmudgeonly golfers, golf watchers who probably don't even play the game, who are watching it, hate it. I think it's great. People there are having fun. It's somehow less douchey than the dudes that appear on the golf courses watching regular PGA Tour events. And it's fun. It's just exciting. It's just indoor golf. It's shortened and condensed, and it's just high energy. And there are things that could be done with it to make it better, but it's fun. That's all that matters. Anyway, I was watching that today, and what was I getting at? What was I getting towards? And it airs on ESPN. And I watched the first match a couple of weeks ago, and Scott Van Pelt is who's the host of a Sports Center. He currently now lives in Washington, I believe, to be closer to his family. And he was hosting before he was in Washington. Obviously, he was hosting a Sports Center, but he was hosting it on the West Coast at like 1 a.m. And he's still doing that show on East Coast time now for the West Coast audience. For basketball games or soccer matches that end at that time. I think it's insane. I think that's crazy. We don't need news that late at night. I think news should end at 10 p.m. And then your local news can come on, at 11 or whatever. But that's crazy to me. Jim Acosta is leaving CNN, which is by his own decision. I mean, the fact that they were trying to give him the worst time slot. That's like when NBC, when Conan got the Tonight Show, and then Fallon was doing late night. And then Leno was like, "Hey, I want to come back to do some. I miss doing TV." And then they gave him a 10 o'clock show. It wasn't doing well. They're like, "Let's bump him back to that Tonight Show time slot, and we'll move the Tonight Show to midnight." And Conan's like, "No, I don't want to do a show at midnight. I have the Tonight Show." Like, it doesn't make sense. So why would you give one of your anchors, even if he is, let's pretend everybody is on the same level. Even if he's the least watched anchor or just like a middling anchor with ratings, and I'm not saying that. I think Jim Acosta is good. I think even though I make fun of certain anchors who were rude to me, one anchor out of like 24 people who were rude to me, I still think people working at MSNBC and CNN are very smart, and it makes sense why they have their jobs. Why would you push him to a show that not a single person was going to watch? And it's very interesting. I'm not going to get political, but it's very interesting. And also, I don't give a shit. It's very interesting that somebody like David Zaslav tells Mark Thompson and CNN as a whole, and Mark Thompson too. It's that people like David Zaslav and Mark Thompson can tell CNN as a whole and be like, "We're going to be less opinionated and less editorial, and we're just going to deliver facts." And then you let an anchor who was publicly sparring at times with Trump just leave. And David Zaslav gives money to the Republicans. Anyway, so there you go. It's crazy how you can be like that. In a Monday edition of his newsletter status, former CNN media correspondent Oliver Darcy reports that the anchor has, quote, signaled in private conversations with associates that he plans to leave CNN after mulling over chief executive Mark Thompson's scheduling offer. Darcy reported this first. The reason why I chose a Daily Beast article was because it was 12 hours ahead of Variety, Deadline, and Hollywood Reporter on reporting it too. I go for whoever reported it first, and if they are a reputable website. Yes, it's the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. Why did I think it was called the Blitzkrieg? The Blitzkrieg. The Blitz Room with Wolf Blitzer. The Blitzkrieg. Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. As Darcy put it, the news of Acosta's departure is, quote, sure to please Trump, who briefly revoked Acosta's White House press pass during his first term after the two repeatedly butted heads. This is a person, a CEO, and his other CEO colluding to be like, hey, we don't need this guy. I mean, like that's crazy. Would they, if they worked at Fox News, would they do the same thing to somebody, to like if Chris Wallace was still there? Like if Zaslav was there when Chris Wallace was still there, would they have done that to Chris Wallace, who was somebody who was speaking out against Trump at times, and that's why I moved over to CNN. It's, you have to, if you're going to be this biased, then you're going to have to at least have this much bias. I don't know the past tense of bias or the current tense. I don't know anything. But if you're going to be that way, then follow through with everybody on all sides. I mean, if we how many right-wing analysts does CNN employ who are always like defending their blonde leader, you know? And you can say that's their jobs, but I mean, at some point, if you're going to go to these measures and be like, and give and offer somebody who is a good anchor the worst spot, then give, your middling correspondents who are on the opposing side the same deals. This next one comes from Engadget. Nope. This is I actually took that job. I took that one down. Okay, this next one comes from the Wall Street Journal, because sometimes I have stories just like sitting on the back burner. And this one actually popped up when I was riding my bike. I was again, if you don't know, I have a bike behind my gym bag that's over there, just piled up. There's a bike, indoor bike. There's a treadmill, other side of this wall in my storage unit. One day I'll have a rower, because I hate walking around my gym looking for a rower that works. And as I do these things at home, I watch TV. Depending on the time, if it's 7 o'clock, I'm watching the news. If it's 8 o'clock, I got to turn on a movie. I cannot watch the news at 8 o'clock. I don't know why, but it's just an hour of news is enough for me in the morning. And I was watching a story this morning on, actually it was on everything. CNN, CBS, NBC. I tried to watch ABC, Good Morning America. They were on commercial. Roshan Fernandez writes for the Wall Street Journal, the Whole Foods workers in Philadelphia form grocers' first union in decades. This is their first union in 20 years. The first union 20 years ago was only around for a year. I had to look this up. Before it was dismantled. Monday's vote passed with 130 to 100 and was prompted by workers' push for higher wages and improved benefits. Ed Dupree, one of the union's organizers, said that during his 8 years at the store in the Spring Garden neighborhood of Philadelphia's Center City, business has grown, but staffing has declined. He said some colleagues at the store work multiple jobs and don't have health insurance. This is a growing effort. I think we're going to see a lot more unions try to get started. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see, as we saw from the inauguration with all the tech bros and all the leaders in business bending a knee, I think that we're going to see too much of this, way too much of a company fighting back against unions. I want to see more unions. When I was, I know I've said this before, but when I was at UPS. When I was at UPS, I thought it was USPS. When I was at UPS working in a factory, every time we would leave in the morning, multiple times a week, there would just be union guys outside, just like, come on, join the union, come on. And then everybody inside would be so afraid, But those people, because I was just passing through, those people were there for years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But they were just happy with, working that and not really having leverage over a company that would take advantage of you, and they routinely did. Go. I'm all for unions. Go for it. Do it. The writers union's great. The producer directors guild, all that stuff's great. Grocery store unions, let's go. Let's do it. Unions for Starbucks workers. Whole Foods had urged the store's employees to vote against unionization. They're disappointed, blah, blah, blah. The natural foods grocer said its average starting rate at the Philadelphia store is above the city's average retail wage. But that could be if the average retail wage is, $17, and they could be paying $18. The Spring Garden Whole Foods workers will join a local chapter of United Food and Commercial Workers International Union. The union is the nation's biggest representing grocery workers, and the local group includes thousands of other food retail workers in and near Pennsylvania. Now, the problem with this is, why did I? Oh, here we go. Oh, I just closed that. Okay. This isn't the first time an Amazon-based company, Whole Foods is owned by Amazon, which is owned by Jeff Bezos. This isn't the first time an Amazon-based company has unionized. Warehouses for Amazon proper have been trying to unionize on and off for a very long time. This next one comes from the New York Times. Amazon closes its operations in Quebec, laying off 1,700 workers, written by Karen Weiss and Vijosa Isai. Now, last year, a Quebec-based, which is a Canadian province, Quebec-based warehouse tried to unionize. They did, they won, and now Amazon is essentially shutting them down. They're laying off 1,700 employees. They're closing all of the warehouse and logistics operations in Quebec. It's a big U-turn from Amazon's recent investments in the province. The company opened 3 delivery stations in 2021 and 1 last year. It also had a small fulfillment center in Quebec and 2 warehouses that sorted packages. All told, the investments total about 2 million square feet of operations, according to an estimate by Mark Wolfrott, a warehousing industry consultant based in Montreal, who has long researched Amazon's logistics network. Amazon said it was closing the 7 facilities to, quote, provide the same great service and even more savings to our customers over the long run. So they're trying to saying that they're trying to save money, but this will. What it looks like is a big response. Even let's pretend that's true. This looks like it's just a response saying, well, hey, you guys want to unionize? We don't want to work. We don't want to have our stuff there. Amazon's still going to be in Quebec, but they're going to return to the same way that they worked in Quebec in 2020, when facilities in neighboring provinces prepared the packages that were then carried by third-party delivery companies in Quebec. Oh man. Yeah, that is just such a disappointing outcome. And yes, your companies are supposed to be and have this idea of we have to make the most money and save the most money possible. Like make the most money, save the most money. But to have a response like this, to say we do the best for our employees, and then to have them working these disgusting hours and with horrible pay and not so good benefits, and to pretend like that's something that works, is just unacceptable, especially in 2025. The company challenged the unionization effort before a provincial labor tribunal. It argued that the union certification should be revoked because the workers signed union cards to signal their support instead of voting by secret ballot. The tribunal ruled against Amazon in October, just before the peak holiday shopping season. This is the ultimate. We're taking our ball and going home. No more soccer, no more basketball for you. We're done, Quebec. The company has more than 46,000 corporate and operations employees in Canada alone. Even Francois Philippe Champagne, the federal innovation minister said in a post on formerly Twitter that he had conveyed his disappointment to the head of Amazon in Canada. The Montreal metropolitan population has roughly 4.5 million residents, making it larger than the greater Seattle region. Pulling operations out of a major population center is contrary to what Amazon has touted in recent years as a central driver of success within its operations. It's just the idea. I'm not going to finish that sentence. The idea that Amazon thinks that it's doing something that's what's good for its employees is just so unfortunate and so nearsighted that they don't want to see in the future. There's Amazon could be the only company that's working in the future, but now people aren't going to want to work there. We've seen the dystopian futures in movies and TV shows where there's one company and people are unhappy. So why would they continue to move in areas like this? Now going back to the Whole Foods and Philadelphia, they can't pull this type of move so overtly in America. So they're going to have to do something. Well, they're not going to have to. They're going to do something, but I wonder how they would respond to this. Amazon has confronted unionization efforts. I'm back at the Wall Street Journal post. In other parts of its business. In 2022, workers at a Staten Island warehouse formed the first U.S. union at Amazon. Amazon workers group that led the grassroots movement is fighting to survive, grappling with leadership and turmoil and growing financial strain. The group doesn't appear close to establishing a first labor contract with Amazon. Excuse me. I'm getting so emotional about this. They're going to continue see unions get pushed. And to fight against it like this is just really damning and showing exactly who they are. All right, in this last bit, this morning when I was stretching, using the Theragun after my leg day and my cycling. I'm kicking my legs, you can't see. So stupid. I was listening to an episode of the podcast The Journal by Wall Street Journal. And okay. I was fully reading that email from Lemonade. I was listening to this podcast while I was stretching and using the Theragun. And the episode is called "Is DEI Done?" You can guess what the episode is about. It's about the drastic changes from the diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives that were put into effect a couple of years ago after Trump left office, and now day one of Trump in office, a week later, this man says no more. We don't want diversity or equity or inclusion because it's racist against white. I mean, that's essentially what he's saying. Now, this is an episode of a podcast. This is an episode of a podcast that I have that is greatly encapsulating exactly almost everything that I've heard in regards to, and I know I talked about how people like David Zasloff and Mark Thompson at Warner Brothers Discovery and CNN, respectively, are both sizing things. This is an episode of a podcast that truly, I think, covers enough of the both sides argument of why DEI works and why some don't, or why some think it doesn't. I mean, to a point, to a T. I did see arguments against DEI that I was like, yeah, I mean, from that perspective, sure, I guess it makes sense. But ultimately, I think it, just works, especially when you do it right. But there are let's just go off this point. The U.S. Supreme Court is basically, hold on, let me do this. Striking down affirmative action. They struck down affirmative action. The High Court says, I'm looking at the transcript for this podcast, that colleges and universities don't have to rely on race when it comes to admissions processes. That was a couple of years ago. Affirmative action was working for Ivy League schools in order to bring in more diverse students, and on a larger scale, diversity action, affirmative action works when you bring it to big corporate companies. But corporate America is saying that they're pulling back their DI efforts because Trump is going to crack down on companies that are relying on DEI to bring in more diverse workers, and instead of the ones who, in quotes, deserve it, more or less. In his first few days in office, Trump wasted no time dismantling DEI initiatives within the federal government. Federal government workers were a part of that was a whole thing where they wanted to bring in more diversity to federal government workers. Chip Cutter says he ordered an end to DI programs across federal agencies. All staff working on those programs were put on paid leave. The Agriculture Department, the Treasury Department, Labor Department removed a bunch of web pages on diversity by Wednesday morning. Notably, the Labor Department, for example, had a page on the history of DEI, which is completely gone now. There's also a tip line, which is like a snitch line to report, which I have no problem with snitches, DEI initiatives across the federal government and its contractors. It told employees that there would be, quote, adverse consequences for failing to report colleagues. That's basically saying report on people who report on people who are trying to bring diversity into your office. The administration also instructed federal institutions to investigate DEI programs at schools with endowments of more than $1 billion. And Trump revoked the executive order signed by former President Lyndon B. Johnson 6 decades ago, the one that required government contractors to proactively root out discrimination on the basis of race and gender. But the new administration isn't just going after DEI efforts in the government. They're also tackling and other companies like nonprofits, foundations, private sectors of organizations, regular companies. It's just, oh my gosh. And the people that are against DEI are speaking louder than the people that are for it, which is crazy. A lot of people are just kind of shrugging up and going, well, that's what happens, which, I don't see. I think DEI works, especially because you have, first of all, it's not just for people of color. It's for queer people. It's for or people who assign themselves to that. It's for people who are differently abled. I mean, how many times have I gone into an office and seen, whether it's entertainment based or not, and I've seen just the same blonde haired, blue eyed, or the brunette people over and over and over again. I mean, even when I was at Warner Brothers, a lot of people in the higher ups. When I was at the Weather Channel, when I was at Bounce TV, the people in the higher ups were all the same versions of each other, which is, I've said this word before, disheartening to see, because, it's just kind of like, I don't see myself in those positions if I don't see somebody who is at least somewhat different. Companies like McDonald's, Target, they're ending their Meta, they're ending their DEI programs. But then you have people who are fighting against it. This comes from CNBC, written by Brandon Gomez. Here's what CEOs are saying about DEI at Davos. Most notably, Jamie Dimon over at JP Morgan Chase. He's the CEO, said that they're going to continue to reach out to the Black community, Hispanic community, LGBT community, the veteran community, red states, blue states, wherever they goes. He sees mayors, governors say that they like what they do. I mean, it makes sense to want to hire people who A, want to work, and B, fit the mold. It just so happens that they happen to be a Latino queer veteran. It's not about just choosing the jobs and saying, let's put a little darky here, let's put a little gayby here. So offensive. Let's just sprinkle in some heads, some little dark black heads and everything. It's the thing about it is having people in those positions who can make the right decisions, who are also, hey, they also happen to be a person of color. Because if we have, I mean, let's make this political. Let's look at Trump's administration. It's all white men, with the exception of a handful of white women. I mean, it's the same things over and over and over again. And you're basically giving, all the power to one type of person. And if this is really America, if you really want people to put their hands over their heart when we watch a fucking football game, then you're going to have to be able to say, we're accepting of all people, even if it's in our nonprofits leading them, or even if it's in our big banks leading them. So you have good CEOs like Jamie Dimon doing this. Let's read what other CEOs have to say. Adina Friedman, the NASDAQ CEO, says, we continue to look at everything that we do in building the right culture and have not chosen a side. We do believe that a place where we feel like people can be themselves and can operate at their highest potential and have a diversity of views and diversity of backgrounds actually makes us a better company, makes us perform better. Okay. So they're going to continue the DEI efforts. They said, in fact, Adina says, so we're going to continue to operate in that way. Cruel. The Pinterest CEO, Bill Reddy, says people on our platform come from all walks of life. Don't we know it? From all different backgrounds. So we've been very focused on how we drive inclusivity in our platform with things like inclusive AI. Jesus. Okay. With things like diversity by default from our feed. Great. Cool. Great. Good for them. I don't want to read Cisco. But it seems like a lot of CEOs are for it, and from the outside perspective of McDonald's and Meta and Target, without having their CEOs directly say anything, with Target ending its 3-year DEI goals, I mean, which is insanity. It's just like, we're not gonna, most of the people that work in the minimum wage programs at Target are your people of color, but whatever. At least here in Atlanta. I mean, I can't walk into a Target without seeing a black person with a red shirt. It's just unfortunate that these companies, Meta, McDonald's, Target, the other ones, they're just turning tail because they're afraid of the stopgaps that a president would instill upon a company that dares go against or try to bring in more people of color to its higher roles. It's only going to get worse from here. And unfortunately, I mean, if this is week 1, where are we going to be? 4 years or 3 years from now, when we're going to be next year? We're going to be in a month. This is not something, and I'm not saying, live in this stew and anger and be mad that this is happening and there's nothing's going to change about it. Yeah, but to be, so removed from a normal life as a celebrity going on SNL and saying everything's going to be fine, or some news anchor on Fox News going, I don't see what the problem is. You're removed. You're not a regular person. You're not somebody who's walking through life every day unable to get the job they want, or able to follow their dreams or do whatever, or even be looked up to as opposed to be looked down to. It's the we're telling the same stories over and over again, and people are tired of it. I can hear my neighbor. My neighbor just got a dog. My neighbors, excuse me. God bless them. They're a couple. I've only seen couples move into an apartment next to me, and they always move out because it's expensive. It's like, why are you moving into a 2-bedroom in the most popular neighborhood in Atlanta at one of the most expensive apartment complexes there is? They just got a dog. I hear them fight all the time. I hear them fight constantly. But they just got a dog. They're fighting about marriage, and they just got a dog. And I can hear, they have a little pee pad outside. I can hear every, hour or so. Good boy, good boy. I told somebody that happened, and the first thing I said was, I would never, if I'm fighting with somebody about, getting married, I would never get a dog. I'll never get a dog with that person. That's insane. No. Okay, anyway, sorry. I was going off on a tangent, and then I heard her say good boy. DEI is important. I think it is. And if anything, it's like, it's putting, let me bounce off of my neighbors. It's, if you're dating and you've been dating for a couple months and you just never said, hey, we're boyfriend, girlfriend, or we're boyfriend, or girlfriend, or whatever the heck you believe in. We're something. And you never put a label to it, and then you put a label to it, and then things get worse. And you think things get worse, and you're scared. Isn't that the same thing that's kind of what's happening to this DEI thing? Like, if it wasn't diversity, equity, inclusion. I don't know what I was saying, but if it wasn't DEI, if it was named something else, would all of these people who are against it, because it's not just right-wing people. You do. I did see some people of color who were against it, but hey, whatever floats your boat. But would people who were against it have been in the same, like, had the same ideas? Like, if it was called like, together-a-thon, in companies, if there was a together policy in companies, or just something along those lines, something, I don't know, I couldn't think of anything else. Would they have been so against it? I don't know. Who knows? But we need to keep striving for something like this, because, I would watch The Bachelor if it wasn't the same white people dating. And in the same vein, if you have a black bachelor, don't just give them black women. There's a whole slew of people. Give me a gay bachelor, man. I want to watch a gay bachelor. I would rather watch a gay bachelor than watch a bunch of straight people who look the same date. I just finished Baby Reindeer. Never mind. I was about to say something else. Give me a bachelor that's like God, I shouldn't say this. Give me a bachelor that's like Weight Watchers 2. That'd be fun. Weight Watchers Bachelor. Remember, what was it? What was that show? The Biggest Loser. Biggest Loser Bachelor. Let me watch that. Start mixing shows together. Oh my God, I'm never going to get a job. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people. The wildfires, they're devastating. And quite frankly, it affected a lot of interviews I had. We'll get back to those at some point, hopefully soon. If you want to see a video version of this show, as well as the interviews, as well as the other podcasts I host, the Constitutionals podcast, which is the entertainment business news podcast, and Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show, head over to youtube.com/C+comedy. You can also follow us on, and you can subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcast. You can also follow us on social media. TikTok, if you still have it, Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you later. Bye.